Welcome everybody to a conversation. We didn't really plan this much. How this came about is I saw this gentleman, Jesse Campbell, who is a salesperson for Guelph Hyundai on LinkedIn. It said sold 54 cars this month, sold 62 cars this month. And I was so impressed. I reached out and I said, hey, why don't we chop it up, have a conversation? So Jesse, why don't you just tell anyone who's watching, man, what's your story, man? How'd you get into car sales?
Well, I got into car sales by chance. I worked for one of the major telecommunications company as a district manager. I sort of went through a bit of the layoffs that come with those larger companies, so I was kind of looking for something new to sort of find my place. And a friend of mine that I trained in sales through telecommunications, you know, kept trying to get me to come and sell cars, and I was really hesitant. I didn't want to do it. I don't like the idea of a very competitive sales culture, and that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. I'm a real team player, but after a few weeks, I realized that this dealership in particular wasn't like that, and I've sort of been selling cars ever since. It's been great.
That's awesome, man. Did you play sports growing up? Like, was that
Yeah, I played a
part of
lot of
your
sports.
team?
Yeah, yeah.
What's your thing?
Baseball was my thing. I sort of played all over Canada and the U.S. Growing up.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, interesting. So let's get to one thing that I want to know more than anything. It's just like, what was your highest month in car sales? What was your best month?
That was last month. I did 76.
70, 76.
Yeah.
Okay, so if everyone wants to know, man. Some sales reps are 12, man. If you could do 12, that would be pretty decent. If you could do 20, that's rocking it. You're doing 76. So what makes the difference between you and the sales guy doing 5 or 10 or 20 or even 30?
I I think probably the biggest thing is effort. And I'm not saying that, a lot of salespeople don't put a lot of effort in. I don't know. I'm fairly new to the business, but when my shoes hit that sales floor until I leave, all I'm doing is working. All I'm doing is following up, delivering. I'm not there to waste time. I don't smoke. I don't take smoke breaks. I bring my lunch with me so I don't have to take a long lunch. If I'm not with a client or preparing a delivery or gassing my own cars or cleaning my own appointments for used cars, I'm following up with my clients. That's one thing that I've always heard with sales is, follow up is the number one thing. And I have
Yeah.
to say, yeah, that's definitely it. People want you to follow up with them. You just have to find out how they want you to follow up, and let them know that you're doing it. At the end of every one of my appointments, if I don't get the deal then, I tell a customer, listen, it's my job as a salesperson to follow up. What's the best way for me to reach you? Would you rather be phone call, text, or email? Then they will tell me how they want me to follow up with them. And then it's not a surprise. Then it's not awkward, right?
Mhm.
And it's not always about, hey, are you ready to buy a car? It's, hey, how was your weekend? How was the weather? If I find something personal about them, like fishing or sports, I ask them about that and make it more of a conversation. And because when they're ready to buy a car, I want to be top of mind.
Oh, totally. We call that in our office, we call it VAFU, which is value added follow-up. And we have a strategy that we use called the thought of you when I saw this, which is just, hey, someone's into baseball, like, someone's into fishing, you see an article, you see, it's like, hey, I just wanted to say, it doesn't have to do anything with a car deal.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes of, salespeople is doing the, hey, checking in,
Yeah.
touching base, right? So that's awesome. And so you mentioned something that I think is so important, and I think a lot of salespeople they kind of take little breaks and they rest at work. And you said, hey, I'm game time. I'm on the field. So where did that come from? Have you always had that? Was that just like a discipline thing? Do you have something you do in the morning to pump you up? Where does that come from?
Well, I do exercise. Well, now that we can go back to the gyms and everything, so it's definitely
Yeah.
a bit of stress relief. But I don't know. I strive to, I'm competitive with myself, not with teammates and other people, and I want to be number one. And what drives me is my first month that I sold cars, I sold 28 cars my first month, not really knowing what I was doing, and I wanted to do better every month from there. Right. I sort of set the bar high for myself without knowing it. And yeah, that's sort of where I get my motivation from.
Interesting. Do you think sales is learned or born?
Well, I think you have to be born to, to sort of have it in you. But
Mhm.
sales is always changing; it's always evolving. So there's so much to learn with it. Um,
Mhm.
you can teach things all you want, but teaching dedication and effort. I don't know. I think sometimes people either have that or don't.
Mhm.
That might be something that's a little bit harder for somebody to learn. But I think I started car sales when I was 35, right? So I wasn't born
Yeah.
doing it. I got into it, and I'm sort
Yeah.
of as I go for sure.
Yeah. I could tell just based on what you were saying, it's just like, hey, like I just genuinely care about my customers. I genuinely care about, like, do you stay in touch with your customers after you sell a vehicle?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Part of getting the numbers that I have, I didn't have a book of business. It's from referrals and from repeat customers. If you treat a customer right the first time and the second time and the third time, then they're going to keep coming back. People trust me to help them out if there is anything that's wrong, and they trust their family and friends and everything like that. Of course, I ask for referrals, in a roundabout way every time, because that's the responsibility of a salesperson as well. But yeah, taking care of customers, it always comes number one. Um, people, I feel like people will Google what to expect when you go in um,
Yeah.
with a salesperson, and I try to not do the opposite of that, but just be aware of that. Don't bullshit a customer. Don't lie. They'll know. I
Oh,
never ever bash another brand ever. If somebody says, why the Elantra over the Corolla, I'll say something like, it's not my job to tell you why not a Corolla. It's a terrific car. It's my job to tell you why Hyundai, and why Guelph Hyundai specifically, because I know the person next door, not Toyota, I'm just saying as an example,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
bashing Hyundai, and I'm going to let them take that road if that's how they choose to sell.
Oh, totally, 1000%. And I think, salespeople probably make this mistake of not doing all the things that you mentioned, following up, not asking, like, it amazes me how many salespeople just don't ask for referrals all the time. And what I see is I think you just really need to be sold, like you said, on yourself and your
Mhm.
dealership and what you're doing. And I think when you do that, you don't need to do a script or a line. It just genuinely, authentically comes through.
Mhm.
So do you find that that's one of the keys to you, is just like, hey, I know I'm going to be there for my clients, and therefore I could just, like, even if some other dealership, lower price, better offer, I'm still the better deal. Like, do you
Mhm.
believe that? Do you have
Yeah,
that at your core? Yeah.
absolutely. And our dealership as well, like our reviews and our service and everything, really
Mhm.
speaks for itself. And sorry, let me just close these blinds here a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Finally getting some sun, and I'm shutting it out. Look at
I know, man.
that.
It's sunny here in Vancouver. We get this like once a week if we're lucky. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. I've been out there a few times, but yeah, so it's really sort of believing what you're saying. And I'm a bit of a goofy guy. I have a lot of fun. I'm excited, and customers want to be excited about what they're doing, right?
Mhm.
It's something that I was taught when I first started. um, if somebody likes you, then they'll believe you. If somebody believes you, then they trust you. And if you can earn those three things within an interaction and get rapport, then you have the right to ask for a sale, and ask for the business, and then you have your chance to earn it.
Mhm. 100%. So, shifting gears, this has been the biggest hot button of the auto industry, and I know you know what I'm going to say. It's the inventory. And you
Mhm.
started when? In what year?
19,
2018?
18 or
2019. So,
19, yeah,
so,
yeah,
so
18,
okay, so just before the turn of everything, right, with the whole
yeah.
inventory. So you've been successful in spite about that, in spite of that. Tell me a little bit about how you managed to kind of overcome that.
Well, I think when a lot of people were sleeping and saying, "Hey, there's no inventory out there. There's nothing I can do," I pulled, I don't know how many people out of service, and service clients, in September, October, and November, and created, all of these orders for next year. Just being honest with customers, like, we're gonna, cars are gonna be short. Is your wife happy with the color of your car? Because hopefully it's no, and then I can get them into a new color. I did a lot of that with the Palisades.
Yeah.
And the used car and trade market was so hot, so you know, I made all the numbers make sense for people. And when you show them numbers and you can lower their payment on a vehicle that's 2 or 3 years newer, there's no reason why, if they like the car and they like the service, that they wouldn't do it. So I put in the work, and I mean like hours and hours beyond my scheduled shifts
Mhm.
in preparation for this to be ready for when we're going to be short on cars. So Hyundai's been hit a little bit with that. I happen to work for a massive dealership with a massive used inventory as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I consider myself lucky every day, especially I sort of work on what's called like, car alley, where there's a bunch of dealerships, and
Mhm.
I have to drive by most of them every day to get to work. And when I see the inventory that is not there, and just like the empty lots, I consider myself lucky every day I get to go into a place where we have a ton of used vehicles, for solutions for people as well.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? Like, I got a compliment, and just to unpack that for everybody, a lot of salespeople, what they would do is they would complain, oh, the economy, oh, the inventory, oh, the manufacturer and the dealership. And a lot of people, even like forget the automotive industry, just in life, a lot of people look at all the reasons why I can't do it. I had our company even make up these postcards. This is to be used internally, right?
Yeah.
It's the common, and what you've done is you've said, okay, I could look at all the reasons that I can't be successful, or I could just work that much harder, be that much more creative, and focus on all the reasons that I can do it. Ask
Yeah.
for more referrals, think of creative ways. And I just want to acknowledge you, like a lot of people, I mean, we're in the training space. We have to tell salespeople, hey, you should be going into service, pulling a list, you should be asking for, but you just instinctively knew it,
Mhm.
which is incredible. So did that just come with experience, or did you see other successful people doing that, or where did you learn these habits, man?
Like, I knew there was a solution there. Our dealer principal has been in the business a long time, has always been harping on people about service and service
Mhm.
drive. Myself, because of the volume, I didn't really have so much of the time to do it, just because my plate was pretty full.
Yeah,
But I bought into it, and I used our systems, and those are easier than walk-ins, man. Like, once
yeah,
you get confident with it, right? It's These people already have the brand, they like the brand, they trust the brand. Everybody wants a new car. It's just a matter of when they want to do it, right? Everybody wants
totally.
to. I want a new car,
Totally. And
right?
it's amazing, man. Dude, I go in for my car and I get a service, and I'm just standing there in the showroom. I'm like, no one's coming up to try and sell me something. I'm like literally looking around.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. So what would you tell a young salesperson? Let's say they're in a small town that has a smaller allocation, and they're literally like sold out. Would you tell them to give up, try and go somewhere else, or would you tell them, hey, you should be creative and try different ways to be successful?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like, the cars will land eventually. And having a funnel, not necessarily a sales follow-up funnel, but having, knowing when cars are expected to land, and everything like that. Like, uh, it's, showing people that their trade value has never been higher, and people, showing clients that there's little to no negative equity, and possibly even equity, just because of the way that the market is right now. People don't expect that, right? People don't expect their trades to be worth so much. So if you can do it in a way that wows the customer, or just puts a bug in their ear, um, the good thing about the service drive as well is that's your best part for follow up. Not everyone's going to say yes right there, but if you plant that seed, so to speak, do your follow up, build that rapport.
Mhm.
I had people coming back in on their next service and making sure that I was there to go over it again, right? Just to make sure that the numbers actually made sense. So there, I don't think there's any point in giving up on anything in life. I don't know. I'm a pretty glass half full kind of guy. I'm
Yeah.
pretty high energy, so I don't know. But again, a lot of my numbers is because of our inventory. It's not all because of that, but that certainly
Mhm.
makes it possible. But I do have friends that are dealerships with lower inventory and longer wait times that I've kind of talked with, and they've got after the service drive and old clients and going through a book of business, and pulling up people's lease buyouts and things like that and getting creative that have, brought in some more business that they weren't otherwise looking for. Waiting on
Yeah.
the train, you're going to be waiting a while at this point.
Totally. And you know what, when there's a threat or a problem in the environment, I find what a lot of people do is they kind of introvert towards, oh, this is happening right now, versus what you did is you said, okay, I'm going to start planting all these seeds, nurturing customers, doing the follow-ups, referrals, and basically the 2020 Jesse and the 2021 Jesse was in big part what caused the 2022 Jesse to have a 76 car month.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
agree with that? So what would you say to, and I get this all the time because I talk to dealers and they're like, why would I give people strategies now? We're selling everything we got. And I'm saying, dude, you got to look towards next year and the year after. And at some point it's going to come back. Were you doing all the things? Were you doing all the Jesse Campbell habits to set yourself up? So what do you say to people that are like, no, we're crushing it right now, we're good, there's no point in looking at those things?
Oh, well, if people are happy with their ceiling and they think there is one, I don't really know. Like I think the nice thing about this business is there is no actual ceiling, especially for a salesperson, on what you can do. Because of this, and that now I've added what I can do with the service drive and going through a client base, that's just another major tool in my toolbox that I'm going to use once inventory's done. Because now that I'm not intimidated, but that I feel comfortable doing that, plus all my regular habits that I'm doing, when inventory comes back, it's just going to be that much better, right? Because I'm doing the things right now when there is no inventory and getting sales and getting deals, that I don't see why I can't do my old habits with these new habits and then just continue to to have hopefully some great numbers.
Interesting. And one thing that I thought was very interesting that you said is you're like, hey, I'm educating the customer about the equity situation and hey, what is actually happening. And I'm sure a lot of your customers don't fully know what's happening in the industry. Like especially at the beginning, you were like, we don't have that. They're like, what? It's going to be 3 months.
It still happens today, right?
Yeah.
People come in looking for electric and hybrid cars, and when I tell them to 10 to 12 to 15 months, they're like, well, I had no idea, right? Not everybody knows. So
yeah. So I think people are finding out, like to me, like and I tell this to my clients all the time. It's like you need to offer information. The old ways of we can't give you that. Like have you ever called a place and they're like, we can't give you a price, we can't do that. You're like, great, let me tell you what we can't do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So do you agree that it's better to, like an educated buyer, a buyer with more information is easier to sell, or do you think it's better to kind of withhold information?
Well, I think it's different case by case. Like I don't know how many times I've picked up the phone and it's got to be the same everywhere. Like, hey, like how long for an Ionic 5? And everyone's telling them, 18 months, beat it, go pound salt, hang up the phone. I try to spend as much time on the phone with that customer as I can, explaining to them why it's taking so long, what the expectations are, things like that. We have a few that are actually, for test drive that we're not selling. And I don't know if you're familiar with this area, but last month I had someone from Sudbury come all the way down, which is about an 8-hour drive, and from Windsor, because we had the cars, because I spent the time on the phone. I didn't tell them just beat it. Like, hey, come here, we're a large dealership, we'll get you this vehicle allocated and everything like that. So I try to do the opposite because I've called other dealerships just to ask, and I'm trying to do the opposite of what all those other salespeople are doing when they pick up the phone, and I'm doing the opposite of what they're doing, just trying to, it doesn't work all the time, but a lot of the times I'm getting a lot of these orders, people aren't even coming in because they're liking the answers, and they like that that I'm spending time with them to explain it instead of saying, 18 months, right?
Totally. It's hilarious because all of this stuff is happening under the surface, right? And you have reps that, even if they're flat out like rude to a customer, right? Oh yeah, pound salt, right? Like you said, their results going to be the same this month and the next month, even if they do that or not. But that buyer, that created a certain impression. They're like, oh wow, that was kind of blunt. And then they call you and they get great service, they get information, and they're like, what do you think's going to happen when inventory returns? Who are they going to go to? So I feel like, maybe there's stuff happening under the surface where certain reps are setting themselves up to be the go-to source, and other reps are setting themselves up to be like, oh, not that place.
Yeah.
Do you think that enough sales reps understand that? Do you think there's an opportunity there?
Well, I can't speak for many other people, right? Like I know our dealership and our salespeople have changed the approach on how we're dealing with these phone calls and everything like that. At other dealerships, I don't really know, but somebody's dropping the ball because they keep calling our dealership.
Yeah.
When I told you I went in today, I sold a vehicle to someone actually in South Korea that's moving back to Ontario that called 5 other dealerships, then called me. I spent the time and explained to him everything like that on shortages of vehicles. He's coming back in May, needs his car by May. I said, you might not get it for these reasons, but he's like, nobody else spent any time. So, I took a deposit and ordered a car for him today, just because spending the time with them on the phone, because they're hearing the same thing everywhere else. Right. So if you make yourself a little bit different, spend a little bit more time. Like, what's it to me? Another 3-4 minutes on the phone, being honest with the customer. Right. I don't know. That's, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Amazing. I love it, man. And what would you give, just to kind of wrap up, young guy, maybe coming out of school or high school or university, they're considering, what do I get into? Do I become a salesperson? Do I do this? Do I get into car sales? I don't know about car sales. There's the used car salesperson stigma. What would you say to a young guy that's considering it as a career? Or gal. I apologize. We gotta address everybody.
Yeah.
Guy or gal.
Yeah, like it's a great career. There's a lot of money to be made, but it's, if you want to be successful, it's not, working 2 hours out of the day and sitting at your desk on the phone for the other 6 hours. You gotta work hard. You gotta hustle to build that book of business, right? To get yourself out there. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's great. Like, I was a chef in my 20s, and I've done sales. I've done a lot of things, and it took me a while to find this, this career. But things happen for a reason, and yeah, like, I think, the people need cars. People are always going to need cars, right? So there's always going to be a market for it. It's never gonna go away.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I just want to commend you also for the effort thing, because you touched on that a couple of times. I think the way that you get ahead of everyone else is nights and weekends. And what would you say to any people out there that are like, man, I got to take it easy. I got to jet right at 5. I'm just going to work the minimum, and the whole take it easy, relax kind of thing out there in society.
Well, if you work the minimum, you get the minimum. Right? Like, that's going to be your result with it. My first 2 years, yeah, I was evenings, weekends. My girlfriend was not happy. Now that I've sort of figured it out, and I don't have to be working as much and everything like that, so that time will come. Now I'm 5 days a week. I go in on my days off rarely, which is good. I wasn't like that before, but I knew I have to do that for the first bit, just to get to where I want to be. Right. So I don't know, like, some people are happy doing the minimum or average, and that's fine. Like, I don't judge at all. But people that want to be at the top and be successful, again, it's all effort. Right.
Totally. And for those who are watching, who are considering getting into sales or any type of sales, car sales, obviously you're not going to share personal numbers, but like, sales could create a great financial freedom for you and your family. Yeah. And I think that is the case if you're doing all the things that you said today, Jesse, and if you're doing, the things that other people don't want to do, putting in the work, taking care of customers. And I think it all goes back to the customer too. So if there was one thing, like, if there's a customer out there that's like, I still got the used car salesperson stigma.
Yeah.
What would you, maybe a friend or a family member, they're like, oh, I hate going into car dealerships. What would you recommend them?
I don't know. I hated it too. So selling cars for 3 years, but buying them for 20. So I really tried to take the experiences that I hated going in and buying a car, One of my first car I bought was a manual. I didn't even know how to drive manual. So, I've had those experiences. The nice thing now is, with the technology and everything being online and all the information right there, the customer coming in is a lot more educated. So I think as a salesperson, if you try to bullshit somebody, you're going to get caught.
Totally.
And I see it all the time that people are trying to do it. Like, and customers will test you. They'll try to catch you in a lie, right? Like there's no point on doing it. The price is online, the kilometer, everything is there for them to see before they come in. And again, like it's just you got to find a way for the customer to believe you and to trust you, because then they're going to buy off you.
Yeah.
And it's especially with used cars. If there's something wrong with this car or you don't like, because shame on you if you aren't taking that car for a test drive before you show it to a customer to sort of see what's with it. If you can get ahead of those things and assure a customer like that they're going to be fixed as far as the used cars go, then people really pick up and really respond on that, instead of trying to hide it, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think, there's all this stuff like, selling using mirroring and matching and tonality patterns. And I think, just it's amazing to see your story, because you're just like, hey, I just genuinely want to help people. I'm being transparent, I'm being authentic. And I think the way people sell should be that. And if you are authentic and you do the right things and you take care of people, you don't really have to think what you're going to say. You could just be honest. I think it was Gandhi that said, true happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are all in line. And it looks like that for you, man. So honestly, did you brightened up when I saw that LinkedIn post, man? I remember the first one, I think, was like 42 cars, then 54, and now 76 cars a month. So congratulations, brother. It's amazing to see. I hope the next time we talk, it's 180 or something like that.
I'll need an assistant. I keep barking up that tree. We'll see if I can get one though.
Dude, I think Ali Rada has like 3. He works. Do you know who that is? He's the highest. He has the record for most cars sold in a year at 1,582.
Oh shit, that's insane.
yeah. I think dude. You could be the Ali Rada of Canada. That'd be cool, man. That'd be cool. So, dude, this has been awesome. Stay in touch. Where can people find you if anyone out there is trying to buy a car and they want someone who's honest, ethical, delivers great service? Where could they find you, Jesse?
Well, Guelph Hyundai's the the dealership that I work at. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. I'm a little bit older, so I'm not on there all the time. Everyone tells me I should get on there a little bit more. Maybe I'll make that sort of my next goal. But please reach out. I'm always here to help. And even if it's anyone wanting to get into sales, wants some advice, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I always respond. Please reach out. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Cool. Well, so great to meet you. And when you're in Vancouver, let me know. We'll grab a beer.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Take care.